Hello! 欢迎来到 mandarinslangguide, MSG, the Chinese learning podcast that tastes great and probably isn't all that bad for you. I'm Josh Ogden Davis, bringing you that delicious Chinese slang that's not in your textbook. Okay, today's show is a long one, but trust me, it's worth it. The guest is Wanying, a freelancer and very accomplished podcast host who is fascinating and really fun to talk to. We covered a lot of topics about food and Harry Potter and racial identity and whether or not MSG is a racist name for a podcast and lots of other stuff. But if you don't want any of that, if you want to skip straight to the slang, you can skip to the timestamp 1942. But I would encourage you to listen to the whole thing, if you have the time. It'll be worth it. So, without further ado, here's Wanying. Wanying, who are you, and what do you do?
I guess I'm a human being. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. It all makes so much sense now.
I say I'm a podcaster for now.
Yeah.
And museum enthusiast, Harry Potter fan.
Yeah, so you are, to my knowledge, 同时 at the same time, developing two different podcast audiences. Mm-hmm. You have a podcast called Museology?
Museologue.
Museologue. There you go.
Yeah, Museologue. It's a very snobby name in French. Because when I started this podcast, I was living in Quebec. Uh-huh. And I do speak French, so I felt like museologue is very accurate in translation, so that's why I chose this name. Of course, you can just call it 博物志 now. I go most of the time by its pinyin name.
Yeah, 博物志, 博物 meaning museum, and 志 is actually the same 志 that's in 同志, right?
Yeah, but it also means 日志, which is log.
Ah, so it's the museum log.
Exactly. You know, museums are not only those institutions about art, about history, about dinosaurs. You have planetariums.
Right.
They are museums too.
Yeah.
Zoos, they are technically museums too. So that's one of these main concepts I'm trying to convey to our listeners, that you just try not to only think about fine arts when you think about museums. It's not only that.
What effects have you seen of that? Have you come into contact with people who change their mind about what a museum is? And
if you can only give me 5 hours of your running time, and I'll read you all the emails coming from my listeners.
But you also do a podcast about Harry Potter, which surprised me.
It surprised a lot of people, I know. But I just might be the biggest Potterhead, Chinese-speaking Chinese Potterhead you might come across. Mm-hmm. I have been reading Harry Potter since I was 13, and I have been binging all 7 books every year.
Wow.
I read them in English, in French, in Chinese. I listen to the audiobooks in English and French. I owe my English learning experience and achievements, if there's any, to Harry Potter. And all my knowledge about the English culture comes from Harry Potter.
If everything you learned about British culture comes from Harry Potter, I have some very sad news for you.
Yeah, I know. I can only...
There's no actual magic there. That part of the books is fake. I don't know if that came through for you.
Yeah, well, that's a sad truth.
What's your angle when you talk about Harry Potter for a Chinese audience? What angle do you come at it from? Because like you mentioned, so many people are doing Harry Potter programs. How does Wanying fit into this?
I spend a lot of time and energy into translation, correcting or verifying the current existing Chinese translation of Harry Potter. Because you can only imagine how hard and sometimes impossible it is to translate all those curses, spells, those magical artifacts into a language that's using a different system of language. So I started to read Harry Potter in English at the 4th book. At the time, I realized how much information was lost in translation. And those Chinese Harry Potter readers who are absolutely Potterheads, if they don't read in English, they won't realize how much fun they have lost. they're missing out. So my show, I really sometimes take the time to focus on that one. I'll tell people in this chapter what you have missed.
Can you give us a taste of that? Can you give us an example of something that doesn't make the cut into Chinese?
Oh, there are a lot of jokes because you have all those cursing words in British English. That's very, very British.
Right.
Bloody hell.
Right, yeah.
All kinds of mates, all kinds of galloping gorgoyles.
Yeah.
Things like this. Most of the time, they're only translated into 天哪. Much more simplified.
Yeah, a lot of the words depend on the sound of the English word to make sense, or the humor of it is in the sound of the word. And when you translate the word, it's a different word. It doesn't have the same sound.
Absolutely,
it's almost impossible to make it work. But here's the thing, Wanying. There's so many incredible things that you do. But when I talked to you about coming on Mandarin Slang Guide, the topic you chose was food. Why? Why was that?
If I stopped 博物志 or Harry Potter podcast or 哈利波特 now, the next two projects I might go carry on should be becoming a food YouTuber or a beauty guru on YouTube.
Beauty guru. Okay. There's so many sides to Wanying I didn't know about.
Yeah, but anyway, food, yes. People, food. Yeah. That's important.
Food kind of holds a pride of place within Chinese culture, right? It's something that Chinese people often brag about. It's something that Chinese people talk about in their own culture. Of
maybe sometimes too much, yes.
Well, I didn't say that. Your words, not mine. But why do you think food is so central to Chinese culture?
Well, I would say it's central in every culture. That's for sure. But in China, like you said, Chinese people are really proud of few things, like food, our 5,000 years of history, which, mostly just 3,000 years. But
once again, your words, not mine.
Yes, that's my word. I vouch for that. Coming back to food, I think it's just really, because China is so big, where there's people, they will make their efforts to make food taste better. And they have been doing that for thousands of years. Inside China, people already are fighting for which Chinese food is the best one. Yeah, right?
The different cultures inside of China can be very different from each other. And the climates are different, the habits are different, and the foods are very different.
Absolutely, yes.
Like Cantonese people traditionally or stereotypically can't eat spicy food. And so Sichuan food is pretty much entirely covered in peppercorns or in chilies or stuff like that.
That's a misconception, though.
Really?
Sichuan food is not only about spicy food. Actually, if you go to a real deal traditional Sichuan restaurant, only I'd say 40% dishes are red.
Ah, all right.
Yeah, there are a lot of traditional Sichuan sweets and veggies, and there's nothing hot in them. So, yeah.
Maybe, so I've been to Sichuan a few times, and every time I go, people always try to feed me a lot of spicy food. So maybe I'm getting a sampling error, right? Because that's the stereotype of Sichuan food. So maybe when I go there, people think, oh, a foreigner, we got to give them that experience.
Yes, of course. I'd say that people are trying to impress you with that. Like if I have friends coming to Nanjing, where I live currently, for the first few days, I will, of course, lead them to all those local, typical, maybe stereotypical Nanjing restaurants.
Right.
And after those first 2 days, okay, now it's time we taste around a little bit more.
That also speaks to the way that food can play into or support not only national pride, but also regional pride for different regions within China. We are recording on the day after Thanksgiving, 2019.
Oh.
And so this is a day that most people in America are thinking about turkey. They're thinking about casserole. They're thinking about their moms or their grandmas or their grandpas' good old home cooking. What's good old home cooking in China? Is there some sort of equivalent? Is there something that most Chinese people can kind of agree on as the down home food?
Nope. You cannot. You just simply cannot say one food for all Chinese people. That's just impossible. But I think for those people living above Qingling, Huaihe, the line of the Qingling Mountain and Huai River, which is a very important geographic division for China. People living north of this line, 饺子 is very important for them. It's even becoming an internet meme.
Really? How
Yeah.
so?
Whatever the occasion is, whatever holiday, whatever, just have 饺子. Just don't even think about it. 饺子 is the thing.
Yeah. Hi, it's Josh from the editing room. I just realized we didn't explain what 饺子 are. And that's because this word, 饺子, is so ubiquitous. You hear it so much when talking about food in China that I almost think of it as an English word, but it's not. What 饺子 means in English is dumplings. 饺子 is dumplings. And now that you know what we're talking about, let's get back to the show.
饺子 is the thing.
Yeah.
You know the 24 节气? I don't even know how to say that in English.
It's something...
24节气.
24节气, the 24 节气. The 24, they're like little holidays or little, not really festival days, but
no.
that commemorate the passing of the seasons or the shading of the seasons.
Yes. And people use, in rural China, people use this 24 节气to mark their next steps in farming.
Right, yeah.
So, anyway, every 节气 you eat 饺子.
So every 2 weeks you have to eat 饺子, no matter what.
Yeah, what are we eating today, Mom? 饺子. Like that. So that's why it's already becoming a meme.
Yeah.
But in the north of China, things can get very wild, and every region has their own comfort food. It's just really different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget, in Xizang, Tibet, and Xinjiang, the Uyghur region, of course, they eat absolutely different.
Oh, yeah.
From Han people. So.
Yeah, it's a completely different culture. So I am excited to dive into these 5,000-year-old Chinese slang words that have to do with food with you, the closet foodie. But before we do that, the only time I've ever met you face to face was at Podfest in Shanghai a few weeks ago, and you mentioned something to me then that I had not considered about the name of this show, MSG. You brought it up to me that this might be considered racist in some ways. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. You know MSG syndrome?
Yeah, it's the misconception that MSG gives you headaches or gives you cancer or...
things like that.
Yeah.
And they are just directly linked to Chinese restaurants, right?
Right, yeah.
Mostly in the US culture, of course.
Yeah.
And that's simply put racist. And because MSG is widely used in all kinds of food, especially in processed food, but people would pick out MSG specifically against Chinese restaurants, right? So I used to work at a Japanese restaurant actually in Montreal. I was a waitress there, and sometimes we get guests asking, "Do you use MSG?" And even one of my coworker, another waiter, he's a native Montreal, and he does not really know about MSG, and we had a heated discussion over this. Basically, if you taste umami in food, that's MSG. It's just natural MSG coming from the food that you're tasting, and your body can 合成 this kind of 化合物. I don't know how to say that. So it won't kill you. It will make you thirsty. It will make you want to drink more water if you're overdosing MSG. And I would recommend our listeners to go ahead and watch Ugly Delicious by David Chēng on Netflix.
Yeah.
He has one episode where he elaborated on this matter, MSG. But again, 不知者不罪. If you don't know, we don't blame you.
Right.
But now you know.
Yeah.
Just try not to point your fingers against Chinese restaurants over MSG. Granted, we do use a lot of MSG in China, inside China.
Oh, yeah.
Because it tastes good. Yeah. It's easy, fast, and cheap way to make things taste good. And Chinese people do not refuse those kind of methods, I'd say, in every way.
Yeah.
We try to cut short.
Well,
so,
it's important to note that it's not just Chinese people who rely on these great seasonings to make stuff taste good, like potato chips. Pretty much any snack food in the U.S. that has any sort of savory or salty flavor to it, it has MSG in it.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah.
And second, it had never occurred to me that MSG might be a racist name. Obviously, I know that MSG is associated with Chinese food, right? Because I chose it as the name for a Chinese language podcast. But I guess I'd sort of assumed that we were over this by now, that we had gotten past these misconceptions. And the MSG syndrome idea is something that Chinese Americans deal with or Chinese abroad deal with, but it's not something that Chinese people in China deal with. Because
yeah, exactly. Right? Yes, that's very interesting. Yes.
So I have a lot of Chinese friends and I have a lot of American friends. I don't have a lot of Chinese American friends. So I was not at all sensitive to the way in which people who had grown up in the West or had spent a long time in the West would come up against that. It was a complete blind spot for me. So after watching Ugly Delicious and doing a little bit of research, I'm not sure if I'm going to change the name of the show or not.
No, please don't. It's an excellent name. You should have remembered that I congratulated you first on finding this excellent name. And I just know that you mean no harm whatsoever. And it's just, it might ring a slight bell, a tiny, teeny weeny bell in some people's head. Yeah. But I don't think that should be a problem. Like if we simply cannot live that delicate. And you have mentioned that this is not a problem for most Chinese people, and I haven't lived that long abroad either. So for me, all these racist ideas come very new to me, and I have never really lived as a minority. So I was so comfortable living in Canada. I've never felt discriminated against. I have never thought I was less than anybody else if that because I'm a Chinese. But no, nothing like that. And I have talked over this with my CBC, Canadian-born Chinese friends. And apparently they grew up under this shadow of worrying, being less of a person, being looked upon by other people. And that's just not in my head whatsoever growing up in China. People in China discriminate each other on other things. Not because they're Chinese, because everybody's Chinese here.
Right, yeah.
We could have another episode on this topic, though.
We absolutely
because
could,
we can elaborate so much on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to bring another perspective before we get off this, and I'll probably cut this out of the episode. It might be an extended cut at some point, but we talked about the fact that you grew up as a Han Chinese in China, and so you were the default. There was no one, there was no media, there was nothing that was making you feel like you were not the mainstream or that you were less than. And I grew up as a white guy in America, so it's the same situation for me. And that conversation we had was one of the first times that I started to think of the ways in which being Han in China can be similar to being white in America, in that everything is sort of geared towards you. It's very rare to see a movie or to listen to something or to see like an official document and feel like, oh, this is not for me. This is the culture of my country, but I'm sort of an outsider to it. I sometimes joke that I think that most Americans should be required to live in a country where, a country aside from America and a country aside from Europe, where you're constantly confronted with the reality of not being the person that the system is designed for. Like every time we have to do any sort of paperwork or interact with the state in any way, there's this entire system and we're an afterthought. I've never been the afterthought. I've always been the main course.
It's fun, isn't it?
Well, it's fun. It's fun if you can go home, right? It's fun if there's that place that you can go back to being the mainstream. If you're from this country and you are the afterthought, that is a whole bag of stuff that, for better or worse, it seems like you or I will never have to deal with because we are from the mainstream of our countries.
Well, okay, I take that back. I said it's fun because the more you know. Right? I have to admit that I was one of those very quote-unquote normal Chinese kid growing up being so proud of Chinese culture. Oh my God, we are the best country in the world. And the more I know about other cultures, other countries, other people, the more I feel like we're just the same.
Yeah.
We're just basically the same.
Yeah.
So your listeners, I really look forward to people studying Chinese, getting fluent in Chinese, coming to China, live here, and realize, okay, we're basically the same. Yeah.
Thank you for that wonderful segue, because this is the part of the show where we start diving into slang. We have 4 different slang words. And let's go through them one by one.
Sure.
And go through how we use them, and then we'll go through the conversation at the end. All right, so the first one is 吃货.
吃货.
What is a 吃货? What does that mean?
It basically means foodie. Someone who really loves to eat, can control themselves in front of food, a food enthusiast, you might say. 吃货 foodie, yeah.
Yeah, and this these 2 characters are fascinating because 吃 means eat, and 货 means a product or goods.
Yeah.
So how do these 2 words come together to mean a foodie?
Well, actually, when we were discussing over our script, I said to you that I don't really like this word.
Yeah.
But I think it's worthwhile to mention this word in the show because it's really very widely used.
Yeah.
That it's a very popular word. You have to know it in a way. 吃货. But personally, I don't like it because 货, as you've said, it literally means product, goods. But in everyday speaking Chinese language, it's not a very good word.
Right.
To refer a person.
Yeah, you're referring to a person
货
as goods or as an object. Literally objectifying somebody. Yeah.
Yes. 这个人, this person, you can just say 这货, 这个货.
Oh.
And it's more, right? It's more used in some regions than other. Like in my own dialect, in the Hubei, Henan language, 这货 is very widely used. And it's not that insulting, I would say. It's not a direct insulting word. It's just a slang for 这货 means 这个人, 那货那个人.
I want to emphasize what you just said there. So 人 is person. And 货 is goods or objects. So you're saying that in some parts of China, it's common parlance to just replace the word 人 with the word 货. So to say, oh, this thing, or this one, or that one.
I have come up with that too. 这货 I think is better translating to this one. 吃货 means the eating one.
Yeah, the one that eats is the 吃货, the eater. I'm an eater.
Yay! We have come up with the perfect translation.
We did it. We solved Chinese. 5,000 years later, wash your hands, go home. We did it. All right, so how do I use 吃货 in a sentence? Give me a 吃货 sentence.
我就是个吃货啊. I just love to eat.
Yeah, 我就是个吃货. So the 我 is me. 就 here is just sort of emphasizing.
Yes.
I could say 我是个吃货. I am a 吃货. But the 就 just emphasizes it. 我就是个吃货.
I am a foodie.
I'm just a foodie. Yeah, sometimes I translate 就 as just.
Yeah.
I'm just a foodie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 我是个吃货. 他是个吃货.
这个吃货.
这个吃货. Yeah. 这个吃货 means, this foodie, this guy, this eater. Huh. It's sort of a joking way to, if you see someone eating too much or you see someone spending too much money on food, you can just sort of sarcastically say, 这个吃货.
Yep.
This foodie. All right, so that's 吃货. The next one is one that dives a little bit deeper into traditional Chinese culture and medicine and thinking about the body. And it's 上火. Shàng meaning up or on, and 火 meaning fire. So what does 上火 mean?
I don't know how to explain this one. This one is... Okay, in traditional Chinese medicine system, you know the core of the system is that you have yin and yang in your body. You have to maintain the balance. If you lose the balance of yin and yang, you get sick. All sickness, all kinds of sickness comes down to the imbalance of yin and yang. That's the core of Chinese medicine system.
Yeah, it's very similar to in Europe. They had the system of humors. They thought the body had 4 humors in them, which were black bile, yellow bile, blood, and what was the last one? Phlegm or urine? I don't know. Whatever it was.
Yeah. I know that one in Chinese. I don't know how to say that in English.
It's a similar system. They just sort of boil everything down to these basic components. In the West, it's the humors, and in China, it's yin and yang.
Thank you for coming up with this excellent explanation.
I'm all about context.
And so yin is shadow, cold, chilly feeling. Yang is heat, hot, bright, the sun. All those words you can connect to yang. And 上火, probably I can say that it means the yang part in your body is overshadowing the yin part.
Yeah.
You have an imbalance of yin and yang.
Yeah.
You have too much heat in your body.
Right.
I don't know if we have lost our audience now, but...
I'll edit it down. I'll find the core. It doesn't matter.
No, don't worry. I was just joking. People, please, this is very important if you want to live in China.
Yeah.
People will...
Oh, man, yeah.
Your kind Chinese friends will remind you, do not eat too much of certain kind of food because they will make you 上火. If you have 上了火, you will have all kind of symptoms like you have pimples, you have ulcers, right? Is that the word?
Yeah.
You have your eyes will be bloodshot. Those are just those little insignificant symptoms. If you keep 上火, you will have a lot of more serious diseases, to which I call bullshit. Because I do not believe in traditional Chinese medicine because they are based on philosophy instead of science. So, but what can I say? Just people just believe in it.
But yeah, a lot of the symptoms that are associated with 上火 are things that are associated with irritation, right?
Yes.
Like pimples, bloodshot eyes, ulcers, heartburn, or indigestion are often associated with 上火. And that sort of makes sense from an empirical standpoint because the foods that are associated with making you 上火 are often things like spicy peppers, right? Irritants that might irritate your body and produce these symptoms. Yeah, so let's put 上火 into a sentence. I will say a couple sentences and you tell me if I can say this.
Sure.
我上火了.
Yeah.
Okay,
我上火了.
nice, nailed it. 我上火了 means I have eaten too much of the 上火 food, and now I am experiencing 上火 symptoms.
Yep.
It could be pimples, it could be indigestion, it could be whatever. I'm not telling you, I'm just saying I have some 上火 symptoms.
Yeah. The trick is to blame everything on 上火.
Yeah, so could I say 吃辣椒会上火?
Yeah. Ding!
Nice,
That
I'm
works.
2 for 2.
Yeah.
So 吃 is eat, 辣椒 is spicy peppers, 会 will, 上火 get on the fire. So 吃辣椒会上火, eat spicy peppers, you will get on fire or something. All right, nice. So that's 上火. Okay, we got 2 more to go.
Yep.
Let's blaze through them. The third one is an expression that you use to explain the feeling of being very, very full. What is that?
撑了.
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 Cheng, what does cheng mean outside of a food context?
Overly stuffed.
Ah.
Bursting of some kind of stuffing. Yeah.
Yeah, so like in English, if you'd say, I'm stuffed, I'm about to burst open. In Chinese, that would be 我撑了.
Exactly. I'm so full, I'm going to bursting. Yeah. You got it. Yeah.
我撑了. I also love the expression 我撑死了.
Yeah. It literally means I'm stuffed to death.
I'm stuffed to death. Yeah, you can add 死. Usually after some verbs, you can add another word to explain the extent to which you are that verb or you are that adjective. So 我撑死了. I am stuffed to death.
Or you can say 我撑坏了. I'm stuffed to malfunction.
Yeah, 坏 meaning broken. So 我撑坏了. I've never heard that before, but I like it. Okay, so that's 撑了. And the last one is one of the phrases that you will hear most often in China, and it is
多喝热水.
多喝热水.
I cannot even. 多喝热水.
Yeah. 多喝热水. So 多 is much or more. 喝 is drink. 热 is hot or warm. And 水 is water. So more drink warm water or drink more warm water. 多喝热水. So why is 多喝热水one of the most common Chinese phrases to the extent that we can't say it without laughing?
多喝. You know, in Chinese restaurants, you will never, well, it's very hard for you to get a glass of cold water or iced water.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, incredible, unbelievable in Chinese people's minds to drink icy cold water. My parents freak out every time when they see me drink water with ice floating in it. 我说你怎么又喝冷水？你不能喝冰水，你要喝热水。
Yeah.
This is absolutely true reaction from my parents.
Oh, yeah.
Because, okay, the reason still it goes down to yin and yang. Because inside your body is warm. You have to drink water that's of the similar temperature of the inside of your body, so it will not irritate your system.
Right.
You will not sacrifice your precious body heat to heat up this water.
Because if we lose that little bit of body heat, what are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly. So 多喝热水, actually, it means 多喝 lukewarm water.
Right. Yeah.
You have to drink more lukewarm water. Yeah. Of course, we do not recommend you drinking boiling water. That would be suicidal.
Right.
And in restaurants, if I ask for a glass of cold water or even iced water, I often get sideways looks from the waiters.
Yeah.
They was like, what's wrong with this person? Especially in winter, you know.
Oh, yeah. Because you gotta hoard that body heat in winter. But the funny thing is, when I ask for cool water or ice water, nobody bats an eye. Because the theory is the 体质 is different. The 体质 is like the composition of the body. Your constitution is different. So for foreigners, it's okay. For foreign bodies can take it, but Chinese bodies can't take it. That's the general idea for why foreigners are okay drinking room temperature water or ice water, whereas if you're Chinese, you must 多喝热水.
That's also racist, I have to add. Chinese people can be very racist sometimes.
Everybody can.
And but also, I think it's because you're living in Shanghai. It's the most yangqi city in China, and the restaurants
means like foreign flavor. Yangqi. Foreign flavor, yeah. It's the most foreign city.
Yeah, so the restaurants are used to those strange clienteles asking for cold water.
Strange clienteles? Who's racist now?
Quote unquote strange.
Quote unquote,
yeah.
I'm kidding.
And 多喝热水 is also a meme used against those inconsiderate boyfriends.
What?
Have you heard of this one?
Well, what I know about 多喝热水 is that it is commonly prescribed as a remedy for almost anything.
Yeah.
If you have a cold, if you have a stomach ache, if you feel sad or whatever, no matter what's wrong with you, if you tell that to someone who's elderly, 50 or 60 or 70, ooh, I just called 50 elderly. I'm in deep shit with my mom. The prescription is almost always 多喝热水. Like it will solve any problem.
Yeah.
But what are you talking about for boyfriends?
Those inconsiderate straight guy boyfriends, stereotypical boyfriends who don't know how to take care of you, who don't know how to comfort you, who don't know how to, of course, it's wrong. It's just out there on the internet. That I am crying in desperate tears, complaining some kind of shit in my life to my boyfriend, hoping that he would hug me and comfort me and try to turn things around. And all I get from him is 多喝热水.
Yeah, it's the cure-all.
That's a scenario. Yeah. Or I don't know how to comfort you. I am so introvert that I can only express my affection, my concern to you by saying 多喝热水. 多喝热水. When somebody says that to you, it means they genuinely care about you in a way.
At least they want to try to help you, right? But they just don't know how.
Yeah. Oh my God, we have triggered so many people in this episode.
Bring it. There's no such thing as bad press. I think they know that we come from a good place.
Yeah.
We're not trying to get down on anybody, but all right. So I think we got all these words, and these words are, I'm going to quiz you on these words.
I'm bringing out my CCTV news anchor voice on this one.
Welcome to CCTV 300, the Chinese quiz show. Today our guest is Wanying. Wanying. We have 4 questions for you today. If you get all 4 correct, you get to 多喝热水. So the first question is, how would I say foodie in Chinese?
Foodie in Chinese means 吃货.
Ah, correct. Ding, 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 ding. Next question. How would I say having consumed an excess of fire-causing foods such as peppers, oil,
or oranges, such that the yang in my body is overpowering the yin, causing symptoms such as ulcers, indigestion, pimples, or bloodshot eyes.
That one was so long that I'm not going to repeat, but the word is 上火.
上火, correct. That's 2 correct answers with 2 to go. Wanying, how would I say? I have eaten and am completely stuffed.
撑了.
撑了. Very good, Wanying. We have one more question for you. If you 上火, what should you do?
You should 多喝热水.
Wonderful. If you have a stomach ache, what should you do?
You should also 多喝热水.
If you are feeling sad, what should you do?
Needless to say, you should 多喝热水.
If you lost your job, what should you do?
Guess what? You should 多喝热水.
Okay, so excellent. So those are the 4 words. And now let's string them together into a conversation. How do you feel about that?
Let's go.
哎呦，我吃撑了。
你真的是个吃货。你吃什么了？
火锅。
哦，吃火锅会上火。
怎么办？
多喝热水吧。That was excellent. That went so well.
Yeah, so let's go through this line by line. Give me the first line and I'll run through it word by word.
哎呦，我吃撑了。
Yeah, that 哎呦 is kind of a, oh my goodness, it's sort of expressing distress or surprise. 哎呦. And then 我吃撑了. I eat stuffed. 我吃撑了. Nice. And the next line.
你真的是个吃货。你吃什么了？
你真的是个吃货。你 is you. 真的 is really. Though actually, I have a feeling that this is an Englishism, right? They don't use 真的 as much in Chinese as you do in English.
Yeah, well, actually, we would say 你真是个吃货。
Ah, you wouldn't have the 的 in there. 你真是个吃货。
那我们再说一遍嘛。你真是个吃货。你吃什么了？
你真是个吃货。你 is you. 真 is real, or here, really. 是个 R-A. 吃货。你真是个吃货. You really are a foodie. 你真是个吃货. And then, 你吃什么了? You eat what? 你吃什么了? The 了 making it the past tense, asking, what did you eat? If I don't have the 了, 你吃什么, I could be asking, what do you want to eat? Or what do you usually eat? But the 了 on the end is analogous to past tense, but really it's implying completion. So what have you finished eating? 你吃什么了? And I replied,
火锅。
火锅. I love this word. It's literally fire pot.
Fire pot.
I have had fire pot, but it means hot pot, which is you get the little pot of boiling oil that you dip your meats and vegetables into and eat it. And especially in Sichuan, there's lots of different kinds of 火锅.
Oh, all over China, I have to say. Yeah, I can easily name you 20 kind of 火锅 right now.
20? I could do maybe 4. 20? That's a lot.
Yeah.
So any kind of thing where the food is served to you raw, essentially, and there is a pot of boiling substance. It could be oil or water or what else?
You can have porridge. You can have soy milk. You have soy milk 火锅.
Soy milk hot pot?
Yeah. You have coconut water 火锅.
Oh, I've had that before, yeah.
Yeah, you have that one. You have tomato soup 火锅.
Yeah, I think I've had that before too.
Yeah, so
I've forgotten all the 火锅 that I've had. But the most popular, the most famous, the most stereotypical kind of 火锅 is Sichuan 火锅, which is extremely spicy because it's you're cooking it in oil essentially, and there's lots of peppercorns or chilies in there. So
although we don't have cheese fondue.
Yeah, cheese, except for like close to Mongolia, cheese isn't really a thing here, is it?
It's not a thing, yeah. In Inner Mongolia and in Xinjiang, people do, and also in Xizang, Tibet, people do consume a lot of cheese or dairy products, but cheese fondue is not a thing in China. Although we still call it 奶酪火锅, because in our Chinese brains, cheese fondue looks exactly like a hot pot.
Makes sense. I mean, fondue isn't an English word. We stole it from French, so I mean, we're still using... we're all just borrowing words from each other. Okay, so 火锅 is hot pot. And when I said, I have eaten 火锅, how did you reply?
哇，吃火锅会上火哦。
Wow. It's another just sort of like wow, or expressing surprise or enthusiasm.
Just make a sound. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And then the second part is 吃火锅会上火. 吃 meaning eat, 火锅 fire pot or hot pot. 会 will, 上火. I still don't know how to translate that directly.
Yeah. You just 上火. Just make it into an English word.
那是上火又上火. So 哇，吃火锅会上火. Whoa, if you have hot pot, you're gonna 上火. And I replied,
怎么办?
怎么办?怎么办?怎么办? This is the, what can we do? How can I fix it? Oh, what can be done? Oh, woe is me. 怎么办? You're asking for a solution. This is one of the most common phrases that I think I hear is 怎么办? You can use it if your boss, if you say, oh, boss, the shipment is late. We're going to be late to our client. The boss will say, 怎么办? How are you going to solve it? You solve it. And then you suggested that I
多喝热水吧.
多喝热水吧. Ba making it a suggestion, right? So 多喝热水, more drink warm water. 多喝热水, because 热水 is the solution to literally every problem. Anytime anyone says 怎么办 in Chinese, all you have to do is reply 多喝热水, and you're good.
The answer to the universe and everything.
Yeah. All right. So let's do the conversation one more time, and let's just put all of our deep-seated emotions into this and really sell it. I mean, we're going to do this. It's going to turn into a screenplay.
Let's go.
We're going to be famous. All right, let's do it.
Shall we change?
Ayo!
Okay.
Huh? You want to change?
Okay.
You want to change? I can change. It's fine.
I don't know. Maybe we'll just provide more example for our listeners.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so you take it away. I want to hear your ayo.
Okay, let's go. 哎呦，我吃撑了。
你真是个吃货。你吃什么了？
火锅。
哇，吃火锅会上火。
怎么办？
多喝热水吧。
Great. 2 thumbs up.
Well, thank you so much, Wanying, for talking to me for so long.
It's a great pleasure.
That's all the MSG we have for you today. And it was a lot of MSG, so if you don't want to get a headache, 多喝热水吧. Thanks again to Wanying for being such a wonderful guest. Thanks as always to Himalaya for being not only a great place to listen to podcasts, but also a wonderful place to host your podcast for free. Himalaya goes well with a light rosé. A very special thank you this week to 热水, mankind's first, last, and only defense against certain death. And last but not least, thank you to you, the listener, for listening. I love it when you listen to this podcast. If you want flashcards, or to meet the guests, or you want to chat about Chinese slang anytime, anywhere in the WeChat group, at our Twitter or Facebook, just search for Mandarin Slang Guide, or send us an email at mandarinslangguide@gmail.com. So, thanks again, and 再见, 再会, 再聊. Bye bye.